One bullet straight through his heart, clean, silent, professional. That's how I did my job at precisely 3:47 p.m. on a sweltering Houston afternoon. I watched through my scope as the target slumped forward at his desk, looking like he'd simply fallen. Asleep by the time anyone noticed, I'd be long gone back to my cover job at the Walker Modern Art Gallery, another masterpiece acquired. I whispered to myself, dismantling my rifle with practiced efficiency. The weapon disappeared into what appeared to be a professional camera equipment case, just another art curator scouting locations for an upcoming exhibition. The gallery was unusually busy when I returned. A new collection of abstract expressionist pieces had arrived, and I seamlessly slipped back into my role, discussing brushstrokes and color theory with potential buyers. Nobody would ever suspect that the woman in the tailored blazer and pencil skirt had just eliminated one of Houston's most notorious money launderers. The emotional depth in this piece is simply breathtaking, I explained to a wealthy couple, gesturing toward a massive canvas of chaotic red swirls. The irony wasn't lost on me here. I was talking about emotional depth while keeping my own emotions locked away. In a steel vault, my phone buzzed Travis 3 messages in quick succession. Where the hell were you? Don't tell me you were at another damn gallery meeting. We need to talk now. I felt my job tighten. Travis, my boyfriend of 2 years, had become increasingly demanding lately. The control freak in him was showing more and more. Walking into our shared apartment that evening, I found him waiting, arms crossed, jaw set. The tension in the room was thick enough to cut with a knife. You miss lunch again? His voice was cold, calculated. What's the matter? Too busy playing pretend with your little art friends? I had a client meeting. Travis, you know how important these sales are. He scoffed, that familiar look of disdain crossing his face. Right, because selling overpriced paintings to rich idiots is such meaningful work. He stepped closer, his 6-foot frame towering over me. When are you going to get a real job? Sienna, something that actually contributes to society. The irony made me want to laugh. If he only knew about the real service I provided to society, eliminating threats, one precise shot at a time. Instead, I swallowed my pride and met his gaze. The gallery is doing well. I'm doing well. Are you? He grabbed my portfolio from the coffee table, flipping through it carelessly. Because from where I'm standing, you're just playing dress up in your expensive suits, pretending to be something. You're not. Little did he know how right he was about the pretending part, just not in the way he meant. I watched him toss my portfolio aside, fighting the urge to show him exactly what I was capable of. I'm going out, I announced, grabbing my jacket. I needed air, needed to escape the suffocating presence of his judgment. Running away again, his words followed me to the door. That's all you're good at, isn't it? I slammed the door behind me, heading toward the arts district. The evening air was thick with humidity, but at least it was better than the toxic atmosphere in that apartment. As I walked, I checked my burner phone. A new message from my handler: clean job today. Payment transferred at least. Someone appreciated my work. I found myself drawn to the familiar streets of the arts district, where street performers and artists gathered nightly. Here among the creative souls of Houston, I could breathe here. I could almost forget who I was, what I did, and the lies I lived. The night was young, and somewhere in the back of my mind, I knew things with Travis would only get worse. But for now, I let the street music and the warm evening air wash over me, offering temporary relief from the double life I led. Little did I know my life was about to become even more complicated in ways I never could have imagined. The violin notes pierced through the humid evening air, drawing me like a siren's call. I hadn't planned on stopping, but something about the melody made my feet slow to a halt. The violinist, an elderly man with silver hair, swayed as he played, his eyes closed in complete absorption. That's when it happened, lost in the music. I didn't notice someone else, equally entranced, backing up until we collided. My professional instincts kicked in, and I spun around, ready for anything, only to find myself staring into the most striking green eyes I'd ever seen. Oh, damn, I'm so sorry, the woman smiled, apologetically steadying herself. I guess we both got caught up in the moment. Something about her smile made my usual defenses waver. She was tall, blonde, and carried herself with a natural grace that seemed at odds with our clumsy collision. "I'm Rachel," she said, extending her hand. "Rachel Henderson, Sia Walker." I replied, taking her hand. Her grip was firm, confident. The violinist finished his piece, and the small crowd that had gathered burst into applause. Rachel clapped enthusiastically, her face lit with genuine joy. "Would you like to grab a coffee?" she asked suddenly. "I know this great little place around the corner, unless you're headed somewhere." I should have said no, should have made an excuse. Instead, I heard myself saying, "Lead the way." The cafe was a cozy hole in the wall joint, full of mismatched furniture and the rich aroma of fresh coffee. Rachel ordered a cappuccino. I got black coffee, and we found ourselves tucked away in a corner booth. "So, what brings you to the arts district tonight?" she asked, stirring her drink. "Needed some air, you?" "I often come here after work. It helps clear my head." She paused, then added, "I'm a social worker. Some days can be pretty intense." I nodded, understanding all too well about intense days, though, for very different reasons. "What about you?" she asked. "What do you do?" "I'm an art curator," I replied, falling back on my cover story, Walker Modern Art Gallery. Her eyes lit up. "Really? I love art, though. I admit some modern pieces go right over my head." The conversation flowed easily. After that, we discovered a shared love of classical music, particularly violin concertos. Rachel spoke passionately about her work with troubled youth, and I found myself genuinely interested, asking questions. Drawing her out hours slipped by unnoticed until my phone buzzed. "Travis again. Where are you?" "It's late." Reality crashed back in. I checked the time, surprised to see it was nearly midnight. "Everything okay?" Rachel asked, noticing my change in expression. "Yeah, just my boyfriend." I should probably head home. Was it my imagination, or did something flicker in her eyes at the word boyfriend here? She said, pulling out a business card. "In case you ever want to catch another violin performance." I took the card, our fingers brushing briefly. That simple touch sent an unexpected shiver through me. Walking home, I tried to make sense of the evening, the way Rachel's eyes crinkled when she laughed, how she used her hands when she talked about her work, the subtle scent of her perfume. These details kept replaying in my mind. Travis was waiting up when I got home, his mood darker than when I'd left, making new friends. He sneered, seeing the business card in my hand. "Just networking." I lied, tucking the card into my pocket. "Right, because social workers are such great contacts for an art gallery." His voice dripped with sarcasm. "You know what your problem is, Sienna. You're always looking for ways to avoid reality, first with your pretentious art job, and now this." I let his words wash over me, but for once they didn't sting as much. My mind was still in that cafe, still caught in the warmth of Rachel's smile as I lay in bed that night. Travis's back turned to me. I found myself holding Rachel's business card, running my thumb over the embossed letters. Something had shifted tonight, subtle but significant, like the first tremors before an earthquake. I knew I should throw the card away. My life was complicated enough without adding more variables. Instead, I carefully tucked it into my wallet, telling myself it was just networking, just a potential friend. But deep down, I knew I was lying to myself, and for someone who lived on lies, this one felt different. It felt dangerous in a way that had nothing to do with my profession and everything to do with those green eyes and that genuine smile. The target's photo stared back at me from my laptop screen as I sat in my secret office, hidden behind a false wall in my apartment. Travis thought it was my art storage room. If he only knew, my handler had sent the details an hour ago. Another corrupt businessman who'd managed to evade the law. The job would be straightforward. Clean. My phone chimed with a text from Rachel. "Violin performance tonight at 8, same spot, interested." We'd been meeting regularly over the past few weeks, always under the pretense of enjoying street performances. Each time we'd end up at our now usual cafe, talking for hours. It was becoming harder to remember this was supposed to be just a friendship. "Count me in." I replied, trying to ignore the warm flutter in my stomach. The hit went smoothly that afternoon, one shot from a rooftop 6 blocks away through an open window. By the time anyone realized what had happened, I was already back at the gallery discussing upcoming exhibitions with potential donors. Rachel was waiting when I arrived at her spot, her blonde hair catching the last rays of sunlight. She wore a simple blue dress that made her eyes seem even greener. The sight of her made my chest tighten away. "I wasn't ready to analyze rough day," she asked, noting something in my expression, "just work stress." I said the lie coming easily, the usual gallery drama. We found our regular table at the cafe. Rachel talked about a troubled teen she'd helped place in a good foster home, her face animated with genuine care. I found myself watching her lips as she spoke, then quickly looking away when she caught my eye. She said, stirring her coffee, "I've been meaning to ask, how are things with Travis?" The question caught me off guard. "Fine," I said automatically, then amended, complicated. How before I could answer, my phone lit up with Travis's message. "Checking your phone records. Who's Rachel Henderson?" My blood ran cold. I'd been careful to delete texts, but clearly not careful enough. Rachel noticed my expression. "Everything okay?" I showed her the message. Her face hardened slightly. "He checks your phone records. He's protective. That's not protection, Sienna, that's control." She reached across the table, her hand covering mine. The touch sent electricity through my arm, and I didn't pull away. We sat like that for a moment, neither speaking, until my phone buzzed again. "Come home now." Rachel's thumb stroked the back of my hand. "You don't have to go." But I did. I had a cover to maintain a life balanced on lies. I couldn't let it all unravel, not even for the comfort of her touch. Travis was pacing when I got home, my phone records printed out on a coffee table. 16 calls, 37 texts in 3 weeks. His voice was dangerously calm. "Who is she? A friend, a networking contact? Don't lie to me." He slammed his hand on the table. "I called her office, a social worker. What could you possibly have in common with a social worker?" I felt something snap inside me. Maybe she sees me as a person, not just someone to criticize and control. His eyes narrowed. "Is that what this is about, you think?" "I'm controlling." He stepped closer. "I'm trying to help you, Sienna, to make you better. This woman, she's filling your head with ideas. You don't know her, and you do." He grabbed my arm. 3 weeks of secret meetings, and suddenly she's so important. I could have broken his grip, easily could have put him on the floor in seconds. Instead, I pulled away, slowly maintaining my cover. "I'm going to bed," I said, my voice steady. "This isn't over." He called after me in the darkness of our bedroom. I touched my lips, remembering the warmth of Rachel's hand on mine. Everything was becoming more complicated, more dangerous, but not in the ways I was trained to handle. My burner phone vibrated. Another job tomorrow, another life to take, but for the first time in my career, killing wasn't the most complicated part of my day. I fell asleep thinking of green eyes and gentle hands while beside me Travis plotted ways to maintain his control. The storm was coming, and I wasn't sure which parts of my carefully constructed life would survive it. The gallery opening was supposed to be my moment of triumph, a new collection of contemporary pieces that I'd personally curated. Wealthy clients filling the space, champagne flowing freely. Instead, it became the night everything fell apart. I was in the middle of describing a particularly striking abstract piece to a potential buyer when Travis appeared. He'd been drinking. I could tell from the slight sway in his walk and the dangerous glint in his eyes. "Ladies and gentlemen," he announced loudly, drawing everyone's attention, "I'd like to propose a toast to my girlfriend, the great art expert." His voice dripped with sarcasm. "Tell us, darling, what makes this mess of paint worth $50? Zero." The room fell silent. I kept my face neutral. Years of training helping me maintain composure. "Travis, this isn't the time." "Oh, but it is." He stepped closer, champagne sloshing in his glass. "These people should know they're being conned by a fraud. Someone who wouldn't know real art if it hit her in the face." That's when I saw her, Rachel, standing near the entrance, concern etched on her face. I hadn't invited her, afraid of exactly this kind of scene from Travis. You're drunk, I said quietly. Let's talk about this later. He laughed harshly, like when you're sneaking off to meet your social worker friend. Don't think. I haven't noticed how you've changed since meeting her, the wealthy couple I'd been speaking with quietly excused. Themselves, others were doing the same, creating an exodus toward the exits. That's enough, Rachel's voice cut through the tension as she approached. You're making a scene. Travis turned his eyes, narrowing well. Speaking of the devil, he looked between us, something ugly crossing his face. Tell me, Rachel, what exactly are your intentions with my girlfriend? My intention right now is to stop you from ruining her professional reputation. Rachel's voice was calm, but firm. Walk away, Travis. Sleep it off, he moved toward her, but I stepped between them. Leave now, for a moment. I thought he might actually strike me instead. He emptied his champagne glass onto the nearest painting and stormed out the gallery, emptied quickly after that. Leaving me standing amid the wreckage of my carefully planned evening, Rachel stayed. You can't go back to him, she said softly. I know, and I did know, have known for a while. Come stay with me tonight, just until you figure things out. I should have said no, should have maintained professional distance instead. I found myself following her to her car. Rachel's apartment was warm and inviting, full of books and comfortable furniture. She made tea while I sat on her couch, still in my gallery outfit. You can take the bedroom, she offered. I'll sleep out here, Rachel. Either word stuck in my throat. She sat beside me close enough that I could smell her perfume. You don't have to explain anything. Maybe it was the emotional exhaustion or the way she looked at me with such understanding, but something broke loose inside me. I leaned forward, my hand finding hers. The kiss happened. Naturally, like breathing. Her lips were soft, tentative at first, then more certain. My heart hammered against my ribs. As her hand cued my face, when we broke apart, I felt dizzy, overwhelmed. Rachel's eyes were dark, her breathing uneven. I've wanted to do that for weeks, she whispered. We didn't talk much after that. Her bedroom was dark and quiet, our bodies finding each other in the shadows. It was gentle, exploratory. Nothing like the mechanical encounters with Travis. Her hands traced my skin, like she was memorizing every inch. And for the first time in years, I felt truly seen later, lying in her arms. I thought about my double life, about the secrets I still kept. Rachel had shared her truth with me, but I was still hiding behind lies. The guilt noted at me, but the feeling of her fingers tracing patterns on my back pushed the thoughts away. Stay, she murmured, already half asleep. Sleep, I knew. I shouldn't have this complicated everything, but as I drifted off in her embrace, I realized I had already crossed the line. There was no coming back from the storm I'd sensed coming had arrived, and I had no idea how to navigate it without destroying everything, including this newfound warmth I discovered in Rachel's arms. Morning light filtered through, Rachel's curtains painting patterns on her bedroom wall. I'd been awake for hours watching her. Sleep, my mind racing with thoughts I couldn't quiet. The G Gallery incident felt like a lifetime ago. Though barely 12 hours had passed, my phone had 18 missed calls from Travis. I deleted them without listening to the voicemails. What surprised me more were the 3 texts from my handler. Target location changed, standby for updates. Rachel stirred beside me, her blonde hair spread across the pillow. You're thinking too loud, she mumbled, eyes still closed. Sorry, I whispered, brushing a strand of hair from her face. The gesture felt intimate, dangerous in its tenderness. She caught my hand, bringing it to her lips. I need to tell you something. Sienna, her voice was serious now, fully awake. I haven't been entirely honest with you. My body tensed. Automatically, professional instincts kicking in, she sat up, pulling the sheet around herself. That first night at the violin performance, it wasn't an accident. I'd seen you before at the gallery. I've been wanting to meet you for months. What she looked away, cheeks flushing. I used to volunteer at a youth center near your gallery. I'd see you sometimes through the window. You always looked so composed, elegant. But there was something else. Something hidden behind your eyes, Rachel. I know it sounds crazy, she continued quickly, but I couldn't stop thinking about you. And I saw you at night in the arts district. I took a chance. I deliberately bumped into you. The confession hung between us. I should have felt betrayed, manipulated instead. I felt something else entirely. Why are you telling me this now? She turned back to me, her green eyes intense. Because last night changed everything. Because I've been carrying these feelings for so long, pretending to be just your friend, watching you suffer with Travis, and I can't pretend anymore. My heart was pounding. This was worse than any high-stakes operation, any dangerous hit. This was raw real. Emotion, something my training hadn't prepared me for. I'm not who you think I am, I said softly. I know you're hiding something, she replied. I've always known, but I also know who you are when you're with me. And that's the person I've fallen in love with. The word love hit me like a physical blow. Love wasn't part of my world. Love was dangerous, unpredictable, uncontrollable. You don't know what you're saying. I tried to pull away, but she held on. I do. I've known since that first night I've been falling in love with you piece by piece. Every coffee, every conversation, every smile you tried to hide. My burner phone buzzed again. The target was moving. I had a job to do, a life to take. How could I reconcile that with this moment with Rachel's? Confession, I have to go, I said, standing abruptly. Sienna, please. Her voice cracked. Don't run from this. I turned back, seeing her there in the morning light, vulnerable and brave and everything I wasn't supposed to want. I need time. I've given you time, she said quietly. I've given you months of friendship, of pretending my heart didn't race every time you walked into a room. I can't do it anymore. I reached for my clothes, my hands shaking slightly. This wasn't how professionals behaved. This wasn't how assassins operated. Whatever you're afraid of, Rachel said, as I dressed. Whatever you're hiding, it doesn't change how I feel. I paused at her bedroom door, not turning around. What if it should her answer was immediate, nothing could walking out of her apartment? I felt like I was leaving part of myself behind. My phone buzzed again, the target coordinates. I had a job to do, a cover, to maintain a life built on carefully constructed lies, but Rachel's words echoed in my head. Nothing could. She had no idea how wrong she was, how deadly the truth could be, yet something in her voice and her confession had cracked open a door I'd kept locked for years. The professional in me knew I should walk away, cut all ties, protect my cover, but for the first time in my career, the professional in me wasn't winning. The envelope appeared on my desk at the gallery 3 days after I'd left Rachel's apartment. No return address, just my name and Travis's sharp handwriting inside were photos. Rachel and me outside the cafe, our hands touching across the table, the two of us walking close together in the arts district. My phone buzzed. Travis, like my little collection, there's more where that came from. The professional and me assessed the threat. Clinically, the photos weren't damaging in themselves, but they proved he'd been having me followed. What else had his surveillance captured? What do you want? I texted back. Meet me tonight. The usual place. The usual place was a quiet bar near our old apartment. I'd been staying at a hotel, avoiding both Travis and Rachel while I sorted through my thoughts. Fat lot of good that had done. Rain pounded the Houston streets as I entered the bar. Travis sat in our old booth, looking smug. I have to admit, he said as I sat down, I didn't see this coming all this time. I thought you were just playing at being an art curator. Turns out you were playing at a lot of things. My hand tightened around my glass. What exactly are you implying? He slid more photos across the table. These were different long-range shots taken through windows, me entering buildings with my equipment, case me leaving after jobs were done. You're very good, he said quietly. Professional, precise. I had to hire the best private investigator in Houston to get these shots. The world seemed to tilt slightly. Years of careful work, of maintaining my cover, all undone by a jealous ex's surveillance. Does Rachel know? He asked, false concern in his voice. Does she know she's been sleeping with a killer? What do you want? I repeated, my voice steady despite the rage building inside me. Simple. You disappear. Leave Houston. Leave. Rachel or these photos find their way to some very interested party's thunder crashed outside matching. My internal turmoil, you destroyed my life. Just because I left you, you destroyed us. He snarled you and your little lesbian. Affair, I'm just returning the favor. I stood up slowly. You have no idea what you're doing. Don't. I wonder what Rachel would. Think if she knew the truth, the bleeding heart social worker and the cold-blooded assassin. It's almost poetic. I walked out into the rain, my mind racing. Years of training had taught me how to handle threats, but this was different. This involved. Rachel, my phone chimed with a text from her. Can we talk, please? I miss you. Another crack of thunder, and suddenly, I was running through the rain, driven by instinct rather than logic. I found myself out inside Rachel's apartment, soaked to the skin. She opened the door, surprise and concern flooding her face. Sienna, you're drenched, without speaking. I pulled her into a kiss. She responded immediately, her hands tangling in my wet hair. The storm raged outside as we stumbled backward into her apartment. I've missed you, she breathed between kisses. Rachel, I pulled back slightly. There's something you need to know. Something that could change everything, everything. She pressed her forehead against mine. Nothing can make me stop loving you, Travis. Knows things about me, dangerous things. Let him try whatever he's planning. She said fiercely, we'll face it together. I wanted to tell her everything right then about the kills, the cover, the lies. But as thunder shook the windows and rain lashed against the glass, I just held her closer. My handler had taught me that attachment was weakness, that love was a liability. But standing there in Rachel's arms, I realized I'd found something worth fighting for, worth risking everything to protect. Travis's threat hung over us like the storm clouds outside, but for the first time in my career, I wasn't facing a threat alone. The question was, would Rachel still stand with me when she learned the truth? And could I protect her from the storm that was coming? The rain continued to fall as we held each other in the darkness, each of us harboring secrets that would soon change everything. The morning sun cast long shadows across Rachel's living room as I paced, my heart racing. I'd spent the night rehearsing this conversation in my head, but nothing felt right. How do you tell someone you love that you're a professional killer? Rachel sat on the couch, watching me with concern. She was still in her pajamas, coffee cooling in her hands. Whatever it is, Sienna, you can tell me. I stopped pacing, facing her directly. You said nothing could make you stop loving me. I need you to remember that. She sat down her coffee. You're scaring me good. You should be scared. My voice cracked slightly. The art gallery, it's not my real job. It's a cover for what the moment stretched between us taut as a tripwire. I'm an assassin, a professional killer. The silence that followed felt endless. Rachel's face went through a series of expressions. Confusion, disbelief, understanding, and finally something I could read. Say something, I whispered. How many people have you killed? I swallowed hard. 47, all confirmed criminals who escaped justice through legal loopholes. She stood up, suddenly walking to the window. I stayed rooted to my spot, watching her process this information. That's what Travis is holding over you, she asked finally. He has photos, evidence of my work. Rachel turned back to me, her green eyes intense. Are you going to kill him? I admitted it would be the professional thing to do, but I can't, not just because it would raise suspicions, but because of you. She crossed the room, slowly stopping just inches from me. Why me? Because loving you has made me question everything, my job, my choices, who I am. Her hand reached up, touching my face gently. You're the woman who cries at classical music concerts, who spends hours talking about art with genuine passion, who holds me like I'm the most precious thing in the world. That's who you are, and a killer. Yes, she said softly, and a killer, but you're not just one thing. Sienna, none of us are. I hadn't realized I was crying until she wiped a tear from my cheek. How can you be so calm about this? Because I work with troubled youth every day. I've seen how circumstances and choices can shape people. I've seen killers who were victims first and victims who became survivors. The world isn't black and white. She pulled me close and I buried My face in her neck, breathing in her familiar scent. I love you. She whispered, all of you, even the parts that scare me. We ended up in her bed, not for sex, but for comfort. She held me as I told her everything, my training, my missions, the lives I'd taken. She listened without judgment, her fingers tracing patterns on my skin. What happens now? She asked after I'd finished. I don't know. Travis won't stop. He'll either expose me or try to hurt you to get to me, then we'll handle it together. She propped herself up on an elbow, looking down at me. I'm not afraid of him. You should be heck dangerous, so are you. She smiled slightly, but you use your skills to eliminate truly evil people. He's just a bitter controlling man who can't stand losing. I pulled her down for a kiss, soft and deep. She responded with a hunger that matched my own, her body pressing against mine. We'll figure this out, she murmured against my lips together as the afternoon sun filled her bedroom with golden light. We lost ourselves in each other for the first time in my life. I felt truly seen and accepted, the professional killer and the social worker, finding love in the most unlikely circumstances. Later, as Rachel slept beside me, I checked my burner phone. A new message from my handler: situation compromised, advise immediate termin. Afraid, I looked at Rachel's peaceful face and made my decision. Travis had to be stopped, but not with a bullet. For the first time in my career, I would have to find another way. The woman I'd been before meeting Rachel would have eliminated the threat without hesitation, but love had changed me, had made me want to be more than just a weapon now. I had to prove I could be both the killer who protected justice and the woman who deserved Rachel's love. The envelope arrived at Rachel's office on a Tuesday morning. Inside were printed copies of every text message we'd ever exchanged, along with several intimate photos taken through her apartment window. I want you both at the Meridian Hotel Room 8815 tonight at 8. Travis's note. Were these? Go public, all of them. Rachel called me immediately. Hune's trying to blackmail us both now. I was already in motion, grabbing my gear. Not my weapon case this time, but surveillance equipment. Don't go to work today. Come to my place, Sienna. We need to talk about this rationally. Will, but not over the phone. She arrived at my apartment 30 minutes later, clutching the envelope. I'd already swept the place for bugs and confirmed we were clean. He's escalating, I said, examining the photos. These were taken with professional equipment. Rachel sat heavily on my couch. Some of these messages, they're private. Sienna, things I only ever said to you. I sat beside her, taking her hand. I won't let him hurt you. It's not just that. She squeezed my fingers. These photos, they show us in my bedroom. He's been watching us, watching our most intimate moments. The rage I felt was cold, professional. My handler warned me about this, said I should eliminate the threat immediately. No, Rachel's voice was firm. We're not killing him. There has to be another way. I stood pacing the room. I have contacts, people who owe me favors. We could dig up dirt on him. What kind of dirt? The kind that would make him wish he'd never started this game. I pulled out my phone, sending coded messages to various sources. Rachel watched me work, her face thoughtful. You're different when you're in professional mode, colder, more focused. Does it scare? You know, she stood wrapping her arms around me from behind. It makes me feel safe knowing you can protect us, but it also makes me sad thinking about what you've had to become. I turned in her embrace. I chose this life, but I never chose to fall in love. That just happened, and now. I choose you every day. The responses from my contacts started coming in. Travis's secrets began unfolding: offshore accounts, fraudulent business dealings, a pattern of stalking behavior with previous girlfriends. He's not as clean as he pretends. I showed Rachel the evidence. We can use this to blackmail him back to protect ourselves. He wants to expose us. We'll expose him first. My burner phone buzzed. More intel from my handler. Target displays pattern of escalating behavior, extreme caution, advised. Rachel read the message over my shoulder. He won't stop, will he? No, men like Travis don't stop. They just keep pushing until something breaks. Then we make sure it's not us that breaks. She took my face in her hands. Promise me something, anything. Promise me you won't kill him, not unless there's absolutely no other choice. I love you, Sienna, all of you, but I don't want his death on our conscience. I kissed her softly. I promise we'll try it your way first. We spent the rest of the day building our case against Travis, compiling evidence, preparing our counterattack. Rachel's social worker skills proved surprisingly useful in analyzing his behavior patterns. 8 o'clock. Rachel said as evening approached, "Should we go to the hotel?" "No, that's his territory. His rules will make him come to us." I sent Travis a message. "Game over, check your email. You have 1 hour to back off or everything goes public." The response was immediate. "You're bluffing." I attached one particularly damning piece of evidence. His next response took longer. "This isn't over." Rachel leaned against me as we waited for his next move. "Are we safe here?" I kissed her temple. "I've got security systems better than most banks. Were safe." But as the night deepened, we both knew this was just the beginning. Travis wouldn't give up easily, and men with wounded pride were always the most dangerous. Still, for the first time since this started, I felt hope. With Rachel by my side, I was more than just a weapon. I was a woman in love, fighting for something real. The ultimatum had been delivered. Now we would see if Travis was smart enough to back down, or if he'd force us to destroy him completely. Travis's retaliation came swiftly and viciously, not against me, but against Rachel. The anonymous complaints started flooding into her workplace. Accusations of unprofessional conduct, inappropriate relationships with clients, misuse of resources, they suspending me pending investigation. Rachel said, her voice shaking over the phone, "All my cases are being reviewed." I was already moving, grabbing my keys. "Pack a bag. You're staying with me until this is over. Sienna, my kids, my cases, they need me. You can't help them if Travis destroys your career. Let me protect you." She was waiting outside her building when I arrived, looking smaller somehow, more vulnerable. The sight of her, like that, made something dark and dangerous stir inside me. "He's trying to break me," she said as we drove, using my work against me. "He knows exactly where to hit." We hit back harder. I handed her my laptop, opened the folder marked insurance. Inside were documents. I've been saving records of Travis's past harassment of former girlfriends, financial fraud, everything my contacts had uncovered. "You've been busy," Rachel noted, scrolling through the files. "I protect what's mine." She touched my arm. "I'm not yours to protect. I'm your partner. We do this together." Back at my apartment, we formulated our plan. Rachel knew the social services system inside out, and I had my professional resources. Together, we began crafting our counterattack. First, we leaked evidence of Travis's pattern of harassment to key people in his company. Then Rachel used her connections to have his past relationships investigated. As part of a domestic violence study, it's all legal, she assured me, just using the system the way it's meant to be used. The pressure began to show. Travis's company launched an internal investigation. His investors started asking questions. His carefully constructed image began to crack. Then came the text, "You think you're so clever. Watch what happens next." Hours later, Rachel's apartment building caught fire, electrical fault. The fire department said, "But we knew better. He could have killed people." Rachel whispered, watching the news coverage. "My neighbors, their children." I held her close, feeling her tremble. "This ends now." "Sienna, no." We agreed, "No killing." "Then what? Wait until he actually succeeds in hurting someone." She turned in my arms, her green eyes fierce. "We destroy him completely, not with violence, but with truth." We spent the night compiling everything. We had every piece of evidence, every witness statement, every financial record. By morning, we had a complete do on Travis's crimes and misdeeds. "Send it," Rachel said, her voice steady. "All of it, to everyone." The documents went to his board of directors, his investors, law enforcement, media outlets. We watched as his world began to implode. Travis's response was immediate and desperate. "You damn, you're both dead." Rachel kissed me, then hard and determined. "Let him come. We're stronger together." We reinforced the security in my apartment, knowing he would make one final desperate move. But now we were ready. The predator had become the Pray I love you, Rachel said that night as we lay in bed, not despite what you are, but because of who you've become with me. I pulled her closer, breathing in her scent. You make me want to be better. You already are, she whispered. You're using your skills to protect, not just to eliminate. Outside Houston's lights twinkled like stars in some of the darkness. Travis plotted his revenge, but for the first time since this began, I felt truly powerful, not because of my training or my skills, but because of the woman in my arms. The storm was coming, but we would weather it. Together, Travis had no idea what he was up against, not just a trained assassin, but two women in love fighting for their future mourning. Would bring new challenges, new threats, but as Rachel slept beside me, I knew we would face them all together. We were unstoppable. Travis made his final move on a rainy Tuesday night. I'd been expecting it, had prepared for every scenario, but he still managed to surprise me with his audacity. Rachel was in the shower when the security system alerted me to a breach. Someone had cut the power to my building amateur. Move my security ran on a separate system. Rachel, I called through the bathroom door. Get dressed quickly, she emerged moments later, hair wet, eyes alert. He's here. Main entrance and fire escape are both compromised. 3 heat signatures moving up the stairs. You can see all that. I smiled grimly. Professional security system cost more than my car. The first gunshot shattered my living room window. Rachel dropped to the floor as I moved to cover her. Stay down, I whispered. Bedroom now. We crawled through the darkness. Glass crunching under our hands in the bedroom. I retrieved my weapon from its hiding place. I thought you weren't going to kill him, Rachel said softly. That was before he brought guns to our home. The door burst open. Travis stood there, flanked by 2 men who looked like cheap muscle for hire. Found you, he sneered. Gun trained on us. You know, it's funny. I actually loved you once, Sienna, before you turned into this perverted excuse for a woman. The only perversion here is your obsession, I replied, keeping Rachel behind me. Shut up. He was sweating, eyes wild. You ruined everything. My career, my reputation, all gone because you couldn't just be normal. Your choices ruined your life. Travis, not us. He laughed, a hollow sound. Always so righteous. Well, let's see how righteous you feel watching your little girlfriend die first. Several things happened simultaneously. Travis swung his gun toward Rachel. I moved to intercept, but she was faster. So surprising. Everyone by tackling one of his hired men. The distraction was all I needed. 2 precise strikes, one to Travis's wrist, another to his solar plexus. His gun clattered to the floor as he doubled over his remaining thug. Tried to intervene, but years of training took over in seconds. Both men were unconscious. Travis, however, wasn't finished. He pulled a knife, slashing wildly. I'll kill you both, Rachel's voice cut through the chaos. Travis stopped. The police are already on their way. He turned toward her voice, and I saw my opening. One quick move, and the knife joined his gun on the floor. I had him pinned, my own weapon pressed against his temple. Do it, he spat. Prove what a killer you really are. Rachel's hand touched my shoulder. Sienna, please, not like this. The moment stretched, filled with the sound of rain and heavy breathing, then sirens in the distance. You're not worth it, I said, finally pulling back, but keeping him restrained. The police arrived minutes later, finding Travis and his men zip-tied and waiting. The evidence we gathered made their jobs easy. Attempted murder, conspiracy, harassment, all spelled out in detail as they led Travis away. He looked back one last time. This isn't over. Yes, it is, Rachel said firmly. You lost Travis. Accept it later, after the police had gone and the paramedics had checked us over. Rachel and I stood in my destroyed living room. We could have died tonight, she said quietly. I pulled her close, but we didn't. We fought back together. She kissed me then, a kiss full of life and victory and future promises. You chose not to kill him, even after everything. I chose you. I corrected your way. Our way outside. The rain had stopped, and the first hints of dawn were breaking over. Houston. Travis was gone, headed for a cell where he'd face the consequences of his actions. We had survived, not just physically, but with our humanity intact. Rachel had shown me there was more strength and mercy than in vengeance, more power and love than in fear. Let him go home, she said softly. We are home. I replied, holding her close as the sun rose on our new beginning, the headline in. The Houston Chronicle read local business executive sentenced to 15 years. Travis's face stared out from the paper, hollow-eyed and defeated. I folded the newspaper and tossed it into the recycling bin of our new apartment. No more looking back, Rachel said, wrapping her arms around me from behind. We've got better things to focus on. She was right. In the 6 months since that rainy night, we'd rebuilt our lives. Rachel had been fully reinstated at work with an apology and promotion. I'd sold the gallery, using my skills now to consult on security for art museums. A legitimate use of my particular expertise. Have you heard from your handler? Rachel asked, pouring coffee into our matching mugs. We're tired. I replied, officially they understood my decision. The truth was, falling in love had changed everything. The cold precision that made me an excellent assassin had been warmed by Rachel's presence, transformed into something more purposeful. Our new apartment overlooked the arts district where we'd first met. Some evenings, we'd still go down to watch the street performers, standing in the exact spot where Rachel had accidentally bumped into me. I can't believe you planned that, I teased, pulling her closer on our balcony. Best plan I ever made. She smiled, kissing me softly, though. I have to admit, I never expected to fall in love with an assassin. Former assassin, I corrected now. Just keep priceless art safe from thieves, my hero. She laughed, then grew serious. Are you happy, really happy with this normal life? I turned her to face me. Rachel, I spent years living in shadows, taking lives, never connecting with anyone. Now I wake up every morning next to the woman I love, do work that helps people, and come home to this. How could I not be happy? The sunset painted Houston's skyline in shades of gold and pink below us. A violinist began playing, the same one who'd been performing the night we met. Dance with me, Rachel whispered. We swayed together on the balcony, the music floating up around us. I remembered how she'd looked that first night, blonde hair catching the street, light green eyes full of purpose and hope. I love you, I murmured against her hair, every day more than the last, even though I manipulated our first meeting, especially because of that. You saw through my defenses before I even knew they were crumbling. She pulled back slightly, meeting my eyes move. And with me, officially, no more separate apartments, Rachel. We practically live together already. I know, but I want it to be real. Everything out in the open. No more hiding. The old me would have hesitated, would have calculated risks and maintained escape routes. Instead, I kissed her deeply right there on the balcony. Yes, I whispered against her lips later that night. As we lay tangled in sheets, Rachel traced patterns on my skin. Tell me again about the moment you knew what that you loved me. I smiled in the darkness. It was that night in the rain when you said nothing could make you stop loving me. No one had ever loved me like that, completely without conditions. She propped herself up on an elbow. And now I know what it means to be whole, to be seen, really seen, and loved anyway. The Houston nights were still warm, but we held each other close, sharing whispered plans for our future. No more secrets, no more shadows, just two women who'd found each other against all odds, building a life filled with light and love. The violinist's music drifted up from the street below, a melody of hope and new beginnings. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new adventures, but we would face them together. After all, what was life without a little danger, and what was love without the courage to risk everything for it? I pulled Rachel closer, breathing in the scent of her hair, and knew with absolute certainty that every kill, every lie, every moment of my past had led me here to this perfect truth. I was finally completely home.